But I have a lot of other legal questions about this because people have been emailing me about this and posting on the Facebook page. Is this even legal? Can he hang a sign that says no gays allowed? So joining me on the phone right now is an attorney out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her name is Angela Giampolo, and she is the founder of the Giampolo Law Group. She also has a website, phillygaylawyer.com. She focuses on LGBT law, discrimination, and civil rights. And I have her on the phone right now. Miss, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Is it Giampolo?
Nope, Giampolo.
Giampolo, okay. Angela, what do you think about this? First of all, from a legal perspective, obviously, I would say the man has a legal right to hang the sign in his window and refuse service to any...
First, by Friday, he'll be getting my new sign saying "going out of business," because that's really what's going to happen here. I mean,
probably
the pink dollar spreads far and wide. Gay people have the largest disposable income. That's why Arizona didn't pass their bill last year, because Jan Brewer, on the 11th hour, got a memo saying, actually, they spend more money here than any other demographic. Maybe we shouldn't piss them off. You
know what's interesting, Angela? Can we just talk about that for a second? Because I do want to get your legal perspective in a minute, but I have been saying this all along. Now I'm a supporter of LGBT rights, but at the end of the day, the other point I always make with the gay community is gay people have a lot of money to spend. They do. For better or worse, a lot of them are, and when you talk about gay men, many of them have double incomes. They don't have children. They like to get out there. They like to spend their money. They're happy, friendly, patriotic Americans.
Well, as a lesbian, I have a ton of money. Just generally, we typically don't have kids. If we do, guess what? They cost a lot of money to make.
Right.
So even if we do family planning, we just dropped $20K, whereas, you got drunk. So even, regardless of the way you look at it, even if we do have kids, we probably have more money on average. But we do. We travel more. We generally don't have kids. We don't have their college educations to deal with. We haven't been able to get married, so we also haven't had those expensive divorces
that
you guys have been dealing with. So
nor did you drop the $50,000 on the wedding in the first place. So
right, there you go, exactly. But to your to your legal point, which delves into the religion component, you do and you don't have a law in the books. While I was waiting to come on, you mentioned we already have a law. We have a law. Your law is different than Indiana's law and Texas's law that extends to for-profit businesses. In Pennsylvania, I have the same law you do on the books, the same Religious Restoration Freedom Act. But Pennsylvania, like Tennessee, is illegal. It's just saying there's nothing in the law that says he can, and there's nothing in the law that says he can't.
Okay.
As far as for-profit businesses go. And in my opinion, quite frankly, the next battle, the next litigation, and I knew this was going to happen, and it's only, Wednesday and this past Friday, the new wave of litigation is going to be, I was just given a newly minted constitutional right that I didn't have Thursday, and now I have it on Friday, and I have a constitutional right to marriage. And Rick Santorum and Ted Cruz and the Jeb Bushes of the world, they have a First Amendment right to religious liberty. And where does theirs end and begin, and where does mine end and begin? And how can we balance those?
But Angela, correct me if I'm wrong here, because you're the attorney, I am not, but I have studied up on this, and it seems to me like part of the problem is that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but when you talk about protected classes under civil rights law, homosexuality, sexual orientation, that is still not a protected class. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're absolutely right, but things like this Amex guy that he's doing is getting us closer and closer to there. To prove long-standing, pervasive, historical discrimination. Please, Chick-fil-A, please, Mr. Handyman, put no gays allowed signs up that are reminiscent of no blacks allowed or coloreds only. And, the more you make me out to be something that we've already protected, the closer we're going to get back to the Supreme Court, and now we're a protected class. I mean, he's actually doing us a huge favor legally.
Interesting.
Legally, he's helping.
Interesting. So again, getting back to the legal aspects of this, so to give a comparison here, if he were to hang a sign that says no blacks allowed, that's illegal because, of course, race is a protected class, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But we can say no kids allowed. We can say no loud people allowed. We can say no gays allowed until, Indiana passed something that said, which was kind of useless, but Indiana, they were in the hot water and there were no flights in and out of Indiana from other government dignitaries. Angie's List wanted to pull out.
Right.
Tim Cook was protesting. And so they said, okay, we'll add something saying, as long as you don't use said law to discriminate pursuant to sexual orientation, but that's useless because how do we prove that? Right? I mean, if you have your religious beliefs and you get to extend them to your for-profit business, but then we have a law saying, but you can't discriminate pursuant to sexual orientation, you're really not discriminating if all you say is, well, that's my religious belief. I mean, it's such a vicious cycle that it doesn't even make sense. But, you know, even further than that is, how do you enforce this?
Well, another good question.
Do I wear a gay sign?
Right.
I mean, you don't know what
right,
I look like, but I have long hair. I wear heels. And
well,
I'm femme in all intents and purposes. I don't scream gay.
That's a very good question. My guest here again is Angela Giampolo, and she focuses, an attorney. She focuses on discrimination, civil rights, LGBT law. The other thing about this is, Angela, this is assuming, okay, so he hangs the sign in the window that says no gays allowed. That's assuming that he can pick a gay from a straight when they walk through the door, which I mean,
right, right. And then that's where he's going to get in trouble. Guess what? Because, you know, he'll say, well, you know, I thought she looked gay because, you know, look, she looks like a man. Well, guess what? Now you just violated gender is part of a protected class, Title VII. Very, very quickly, he will get into legal trouble that exist, that are on the books.
What if he just has a very good gaydar? Could he use that as a defense?
In Tennessee? I doubt it. And you know what? And I think it's anti-religious to prevent lesbians from packing their tool belt. I mean, that's what they live for, right? They live in Home Depot. So, no, I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, they're not going to be able to tell the difference between a gay or a straight. Gays don't wear signs. This isn't, you know, World War II. I don't wear a pink triangle to prove that I'm gay. And it's a slippery slope. And at the end of the day, too, when we talk about the realities of this and get serious and where does his First Amendment right end and begin, and in my opinion, it ends and begins in his home and in his church or synagogue or place of ministry. But once you start bringing that into commerce, into everyday commerce, saying blacks have to go in the back of the bus, blacks can only drink here, they're not allowed to eat here. In Pennsylvania, just like pre-1964, in Pennsylvania, I could be denied a hotel room.
Right.
Public accommodations. They don't have to rent to me. I mean, it's only a matter of time before we become a protected class.
Right.
And the more guys like that do stuff like this, it's all the proof I need.
And so, again, I think that's my guest here again, Angela Giampolo, and she's an attorney who focuses on LGBT law. We're talking here about this store, hardware store in Granger County, Tennessee, where the store owner, Jeff Amex is his name, hung a sign. Well, the first sign said, no gays allowed, and then he decided to tone it down a little bit, and he put up a sign that says, we reserve the right to refuse service, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, and Angela, this is the last question I have for you. So it seems to me, though, that a lot of this confusion will reign, and you'll see people trying to get away with as much as they can get away with. And again, me personally, I have respect for everybody's personal beliefs and religious beliefs. I completely disagree with this man in his particular interpretation of the Bible, but whatever, that's a conversation for another time. Seems to me like this cannot be addressed in its entirety until, like you say, sexual orientation becomes a protected class. Until then, until it's written into the law, just like handicapped people and blacks and Hispanics, you cannot discriminate against them for this reason. It seems like we'll have this confusion.
Absolutely. Like I said, this is the next wave of litigation. The visual that I get when I think of LGBT rights and equality is that whack-a-mole game, you know, the boardwalk,
right.
Where you have to hit the mole down real quick. And every time I think we've hit the mole down, like they just pop up somewhere else with a different argument. And before it was, well, you can't procreate, and you know, but religious liberties wasn't there 2 years ago. And then they lost that fight in the Edie Windsor case, and now they've molded and they've come up with this. And I guess what I would want your listeners to take from all of this is, this isn't about whether or not you agree with my sexual orientation, with whether you agree, you know, that gay people are going to hell or not. What happened on Friday, for whatever reason, this country, and I'm Canadian, so I come from a country that views marriage very differently legally, but this country decided to tie 1,138 federal and state rights to the institution of marriage. if you wanted marriage to stay a religious institution,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have mucked it up
Right.
by tying 1,138 rights to it.
Yep.
And all Friday said was, I have a constitutional right to those privileges, to those benefits.
And what this goes
So-
back to, Angela, I've talked about this so many times on my show. Again, you just nailed this on the head. The United States, any particular state, they don't need to be in the business of marriage. But if they decide to get into the business of marriage, just like any other law under the Constitution, they have to provide equal protection.
Right. I never thought I'd agree with Rand Paul, but absolutely, marriage should just go away in the way that the government has created it.
Yeah.
And it should just all be civil unions, and then whether or not you get married is whether or not you have a religious ceremony after the fact.
Well-
I come from a long line of straight people in Canada that never got married because Canada doesn't tie marriage to rights the way that we do here.
Interesting. All right, Angela Giampolo, I certainly appreciate your time. And I suppose the good news for you, you say this is just the first in probably a lot of these whack-a-mole cases, more and more legal cases popping up. That's good news for you because you can make a lot of money here. I guess,
Exactly.
right? Right. I mean, you're an attorney.
As long as people like Amex exist, I'm forever, not out of a job.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. All right,
and
Angela.
Again, he's getting my sign by Friday, I promise.
Yeah. All right, Angela, I appreciate the time.
Thank
And
you.
folks, you can check out Angela at phillygay.lawyer.com. Angela, thank you.